That title could be slightly misleading, but it's true. Megapixels are a scam for the most part. I am Devatan and you're watching Tech Isle, and today let's check out why megapixels doesn't actually matter. Let's begin. So first you need to know what a pixel is. So pixel is the tiniest dot that makes up the screen. So there will be millions of pixels in a single panel. So you might be watching this video on a panel ranging from 720p to 4K or even 8K. So if you're watching this in a 720p display, then it will have 777,760 pixels. If you're watching this in 1080p, then your display will have 2,073,600 pixels. If you're watching this in a 1440p display, then your pixels count will be 3,686,400 pixels, and if you're watching in 4K, your pixel count will be 8,294,400 pixels. So now you know what a pixel is. So let's talk what a megapixel is. Megapixel means million pixels, like mega stands for million, so megapixels means a million pixels. So 12 megapixels will have 12 million pixels, 48 megapixels will have 48 million pixels, and 108 megapixels will have 108 million pixels. Alright, so now that we have laid the base or the foundation of this video, let's talk why megapixels actually doesn't matter. And the first reason is that more megapixels doesn't necessarily mean a better image. It simply means that your picture will have more details in it. Like the difference between a 2 megapixel sensor and a 12 megapixel sensor will be massive, but the difference between say a 48 megapixel, 64 megapixel and a 108 megapixel sensor would be too massive just on the first look. Unless you crop in like 10 to 20 times, you wouldn't be noticing a massive difference. Besides, you also need to have like a Pro Max Ultra Resolution screen to watch that complete megapixels. For example, this video that you're watching right now is just a little bit more than 2 megapixels because this is being shot in 1080p. So if you're watching a video which is in 4K, then that also will be just 8 megapixels, which is a far cry from the 48 or the 64 megapixel mobile camera sensors which are popular in the phones that are launching today. So just remember that more megapixels doesn't simply mean better image, it simply means that the image will have more details, but those details would not be visible in the first look. So the second is that more megapixels means more noise. Let me explain. So let's take two mobile camera sensors. One will be a 12 megapixel one and the other will be a higher megapixel sensor, let's say 64 megapixels. Then assume that these both are of the same size. Why? Because manufacturers most often don't want large sensors, because large sensors means the cost will be high, and number two, large sensor means the whole body will be larger. So manufacturers most often don't want that. So let's assume that both of these are of the same size. So in the 64 megapixel sensor, you need to have more megapixels, that is more pixels you need. So in the 64 megapixel one, you need to have 52 million pixels more in the same size. So there is no other way than to keep the pixels smaller. They have to keep the pixels smaller because they need to accumulate 52 million pixels more in the same area than the 12 megapixel one. And that's not good because smaller pixels means more noise. And ultimately, the trade-off that you are giving for a higher megapixel image is that the noise level will be high. Megapixels is actually one of the last things that you should keep in your mind when you're looking for a mobile camera, unless you are shooting for billboards. We'll explain more about that in the later part of the video. There are far more important things like the physical size of the sensor, the size of the pixels, the post-processing that the software is able to do, and how well the sensor is made. This is actually one of the reasons why seasoned campaigners like Google and Pixel are able to consistently get good results with that 12 megapixel sensor, because they focused on the other things than just look at the number of the megapixels. So that's why for the most part megapixels doesn't matter, and I repeat, for the most part. Yes, it does matter sometimes. So let's talk about that. I did say in this video that if you're shooting for billboards, say you are a fashion photographer, then megapixels becomes important. This is obviously due to the fact that the size that a billboard or a poster covers is much larger than the TV screen or your phone screen that you're watching in this right now. So you do need more megapixels there. Besides, the ultra high resolution camera sensors like the 108 megapixel sensors are physically large sensors because manufacturers realize that there's a limit to how small the pixel can be. So a larger sensor is always better because it allows in more light. So when buying a phone for the camera, make sure that you know what you are getting into. So if you are a professional then and you are buying it for professional use, then it does make sense to have that higher megapixels. But for others, now you know megapixels are a scam for the most part. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully you might have realized that the channel banner has got some large upgrades and the channel logo has been changed with some minor changes. These were done by the very creative Nived, whose channel's link will be in the cards below. That's for today. Hope you liked it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Video that you're watching right now is just a little bit over 2 megapixels because this being just only a little bit